it's Cindy from Stamped with Aloha. I have a new card to share with you today, so let's go ahead and get started. Today we're going to be working on a card that uses this brand new stamp set called Tropical Leaf. This is a new set that you won't find in our catalog, but it is part of our online exclusive, and you can order it with a coordinating punch and bundle it together. We aren't going to be using the punch for today's project, but instead we're just going to be focusing on the stamp set. Now, before I show you how we're going to create an Anthurium image, because as you'll see, there aren't any Anthuriums in this set, so we're going to go a little bit out of the box. But before we do that, let me show you how we're going to create our card base. So I have a piece of Blushing Bride cardstock that's 4 1/4 by 11 inches, and I'm going to turn it on my paper trimmer, and I'm going to cut it at 9 inches. So we're going to line it up, and using the cutting blade, we're going to cut off. So we're taking off a 2-inch piece like that. And then using the scoring blade here, I'm going to line it up at 5 1/2 inches, and I'm going to score. All right, so now our cardstock looks like this, and we have this little 2-inch piece. And what we're going to do is we're going to actually add some texture to this in just a minute. But before we do that, we're going to go ahead and do some stamping. So for the stamping, I'm going to be using this image here from the stamp set, this large tropical leaf, and I'll be using my Blushing Bride ink. So since this is a photopolymer stamp, I'm going to get out my piercing mat, I'm going to get out a grid sheet, and then I'm going to go ahead and open up the card because we're just going to stamp the top part here. So using my Blushing Bride ink, I'm going to ink up my stamp, and then I'm going to go ahead and stamp this 5 times. Okay, so now our stamping is done. I've actually stamped it 6 times around the edges, and then we're going to add some texture to the bottom of our card here. So remember, we had this 2-inch piece that we cut off. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to place it in an embossing folder. So we have a brand new embossing folder that's also a part of our online collection. It is the Basics 3D embossing folder, and you'll see that there's 3 different patterns in this, and I'm going to be using this textured one that looks like this. Okay, so when we place this into the embossing folder, you can see that pattern on there. I'm going to run this through my Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine, and when it's done, it's going to look like this. So now I'm going to take this piece and I'm going to reattach it to the card. So the neat thing about this is there's no waste of cardstock. We're using the scrap that we cut off, and then we've kind of created a fun fold to this card because we've taken the flap off and now we've reattached it, but the card will fold like this. Okay? So now we have our stamping and our texture, and we're ready to do some more stamping, and we'll begin to work towards building our Anthurium. For the next step, I'm going to get out a piece of white cardstock. The size of this cardstock is 2 3/4 by 3 3/4, and I'm going to start with the sentiment that's in the stamp set that says "Thanks so much." So there's 4 sentiments in the stamp set, but we're going to use this one, which is going to be for a thank you card. So we have our sentiment in the bottom left corner. And then the next color that we're going to use is Pear Pizzazz. With Pear Pizzazz, we'll be stamping the stems that come in the set that look like this. So I'm going to angle them over to the right side so that it goes off of the card, and that those stems are going to go all the way almost to the top left corner of this card. And I'm just going to give it a couple of presses and lift it up. Okay. All right, so now we are ready to create our Anthurium flowers. So I have a piece of Blushing Bride cardstock, and I'm going to show you this stamp here. So this stamp is just like this stamp, it's just a smaller one, and you saw how that created this Monstera leaf image. So if you were to use this one, you would just get a slightly smaller leaf. All right, but what we're going to do to create the Anthurium is we're going to actually turn the stamp upside down. So I'm going to get out my block and I'm going to glue the stamp on here. So kind of like creating a reversible stamp, but this stamp was not one of our reversible stamps. I'm just choosing to reverse it. And then I'm going to get out my sorbet ink, my sweet sorbet ink. I've been using this a lot because I have to be honest, I've been making lots of these cards. I love creating tropical images. So what I'm going to do now is take the back side of the stamp. I'm going to ink it up with my sweet sorbet ink, and then I'm going to just press it down and just give it a good push. Now, you'll see that when you stamp that, there's a little tiny puka there. that's on the back of the stamp because there's a little hole right there, but it's okay because we are going to cover that up when we finish our Anthurium. And so you're going to just press it, give it a nice press, and you're going to do that 3 times. Okay, and here's one more. Or if you're making lots of cards like I am right now, you'll go ahead and do the whole page. Okay, so now we've got our Anthuriums done, but now we need the center of the Anthurium. Okay, so next I'm going to take a piece of So Saffron cardstock, and of course we're going to do the Laura's tape technique. So I'm going to take a piece of my clear packing tape, and I'm going to glue that onto the edge of a strip of scrap cardstock. Now, for the center of the Anthurium, I did try to do it with the punch that comes in the bundle. And so what I did was I kind of angled it. I'm going to do it over here on the untaped side. But I kind of like angled it in here like that so that you get a piece that looks like that. And then with my scissors, I kind of came back in and I sort of shaped it into what I thought the center of the Anthurium would look like. So kind of just follow it along the edge like that and then just like round it off at the top. So then when you have your Anthurium flower, you could take and you could lay that on there like that. So that looks pretty good, right? Okay, so what I'm gonna use is my scrap paper here, and then I'm gonna use this punch and I'm gonna line it up and punch it out. And with this whale punch, I'm gonna get the center that looks like this, okay? I'm gonna go ahead and do that 2 more times. Okay, so now I have 3 of them. I'm gonna stack them on top of each other. And then I'm gonna take my scissors and I'm gonna round them just like I did on that first example. And now, when I put them on the flower, all 3 of them are gonna look exactly the same. So by using this punch, it's just a little bit easier to get that consistent look. Even if you move them slightly in a different direction, because not all Anthurium flowers are exactly the same, but the main thing you need to do is cover up that little, I call it a puka, but that little hole that's right there on the stamp. So you just want to cover that up with that. Okay, now to adhere these, it's really simple. We're just going to take a little bit of liquid glue. You just need a tiny little bit, and you place it on the back side of the cardstock that does not have the tape. And then we're going to just line it up at the edge and just place it over that little hole. And you'll do that 3 times. And then after you do that, you will cut those Anthurium flowers out so that you will have 3 fussy cut flowers just like that. Okay, so isn't that great that you can create a pretty Anthurium flower using this tropical leaf stamp set? So let's go ahead and finish the card. So we take our 3 flowers, we have our card base that we've stamped, and then we've taken that white cardstock that I stamped and I've glued it onto a piece of 3 1/4 by 4 1/4 early espresso cardstock. Now I'm gonna put this layer on with some dimensionals. So I've only placed dimensionals here at the top. I'm going to turn this around and I'm going to center this on the front of the card. Okay, and then I'm going to take a dimensional and I'm going to place it behind each Anthurium, and then I'm going to position them on the card. We're going to have one over here. We're going to have one down here. And our third one is going to be going up here like that. And there you go. You have a completed tropical Anthurium card. Well, the card is complete, so I want to say thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video today. If you have not yet subscribed to my YouTube channel and would like to continue seeing my videos, please be sure to hit the subscribe button so that you can join me again for my next project. I look forward to stamping with you again real soon. Until then, aloha.